Hello everybody, my name is Grace and today I'm going to continue reading A Christmas Carol but part 6. In part 5 of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge is visited by the warm-hearted ghost of Christmas present. The ghost takes him through the busy city of London on Christmas morning, sprinkling its torch filled with good will whenever they go. Up rose Miss Cratchit's wife, dressed out but poorly in a tight-skirt gown, and she laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit. Second of her daughters, Master Peter Cratchit, plunked a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, and getting the corners of his monstrous shirt collar into his mouth, rejoined to himself so gladly at child. And now two smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in and screaming that the outside bakers they had smelt the goose and, and known it for their own. Basking in luscious stocks of sage and onions, these young Cratchits danced about the table and exalted Master Peter Cratchit to the skies, while he blew the fire until the slow potatoes bubbling up knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to let it out and be peeled. "What has ever got you into your precious father, then?" said Mrs. Cratchit. "And your brother, Tiny Tim. And Martha wasn't as late as Christmas Day by half an hour." "Here's Mother, mother," said a girl, appearing as she spoke. "Here's Martha, mother," cried the two young Cratchits. "Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha." "Why, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are!" said Mrs. Cratchit, kissing her a dozen times, and taking off her shawl and bonnet for her with officious zeal. "We got a deal to finish up last night," replied the girl, "and had to clear away this morning, mother." "Well, never mind so long as you're here come," said Mrs. Cratchit. "Sit ye down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm Lord bless ye." "No, no, there's father's coming," cried the two young Cratchits, who were everywhere at once. "Hi, mother, hi!" So mother hid herself, and in came little Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter exclusives on the fringe, hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darted up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and he had his limbs supported by an iron frame. "Where's our Martha?" cried Bob Cratchit, looking around. "Not coming," said Mrs. Cratchit. "Not coming," said Bob, with a sudden declension in his high spirits, for he had been Tim's horse all the way from church, and had come home rampant. "Not coming upon Christmas Day?" Mother didn't like to see him disappointed, if it were only in joke, so she came out prematurely from behind the closet door, and ran into his arms. The two young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim off into the rush house, that he might hear the pudding singing in the copper. "And how did little Tim behave?" asked Mrs. Cratchit, when he had railed Bob on his security, and Bob had hooked his daughter to his heart's content. "Good as gold," said Bob, "and better. Somehow he gets throughout sitting by himself so much he thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in the church, because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk, blind men see, Bob's voice was tremulous when he told them this, and trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing strong and healthy. His active little crutch had heard a pop and floor upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken. Escorted by his brother and sister to the stove before the fire, Bob turning up his cups, as if, poor fellow, they were capable of being made more shabby. Compiled some hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons, and stirred it round and round, and put it on the hob to simmer. Master Peter and the two ubiquitous young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, which they soon returned to high procession. Such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose, the rarest of all birds, had feathered phenomenon, to which a black swan was matter of course, and it is true that it was something very like it in the house. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy ready beforehand in a little saucepan, hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce, and Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting guard opened their post, crammed spoons into their mouths. Let's play the short shriek for goose before the turn came to be held. At the last dishes were set up, and grace was said, and it was succeeded by breathless pause, as Miss Cratchit, looking down slowly among the craving knife, began to plunge it in the breast. When she did, the long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth. One murmur of delight arose around the board. Even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife, and Phoebe cried, "Hurrah!" There was never such a goose, Bob said. He didn't believe that there was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness, were the themes of universal admiration. Eggs out by applesauce and mashed potatoes. It was a sufficient dinner for the whole family. Indeed, as Mrs. Cratchit had said with great delight, surveying one small atom of a bone upon the dish, they hadn't ate it all, alas. Yet every one had had enough, and the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to their eyebrows. But now, the place being changed by Miss Belinda, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone too, nervous to bear witnesses, to take the pudding up and bring it in. Suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have gotten over the wall of the backyard and stolen it, while they were merry with the goose, a suspicion at which the two young Cratchits became livid. All sorts of horrors were supposed. Hello! A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of copper, smelled like a washing day that was the cloth, smelling like an eating house, and a pastry cooks next door to each other, with a large dress next to the door. That was the pudding. In half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit entered, flustered but smiling proudly. The pudding with the pudding, a little speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing and ignited brightly with Christmas holly, stuck on to the top. Oh, a wonderful pudding, Bob Cratchit said, and calmly too. He regarded it with as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since their marriage. Mrs. Cratchit said now that the weight was off her mind. She would confess she had had her doubts about the quantity of flour. Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought it was a small pudding or a large family. It would have been fat Hershey to do so. Any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing. At last the dinner was all done. The cloth was cleared. The hearth, the hearth swept. The fire made up. The compound in the jug being tasted. The considered perfect apples and oranges were put upon the tables. A shovel and a shovel full of chestnuts on the fire. Then all the Cratchit family drew around the hearth in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning half a one. At Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of the glass, 2 tumblers, a custard cup without a handle. These held the hot stuff from the jug. However, as well as the golden goblets would have done, and Bob served it out with beaming looks, while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and cracked noisily. Then Bob proposed, "Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us." Which all the family re-echoed. "God bless us, everyone," said Tiny Tim, the last of all. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob held his little hand in his, as he is loved by the child, and wished to keep him by his side, and dreaded that he might be taken from him. "Spirit," said Scrooge, with an interest he had never felt before. "Tell me if Timmy Tim will live." "I see a vacant seat," replied the ghost, "in the poor chimney corner, in a clutch without an owner, carefully preserved. The shadows remain unaltered by the future. The child would die." "No, no," said Scrooge. "Oh no, kind spirit. Say he will be spared." So that's all of the half of a Christmas Carol, and I will see you on the next to read the full part 6. Goodbye.